you guys for tuning in with us on a Wednesday. Today we promise for you to actually use your Wednesday very productively. We're going to be talking about being a global citizen with a guest that has lived at, that has traveled actually in over 60 countries, lives basically overseas for the majority of the month, and we're going to have a chance to speak to her about what are some of the tips and tricks of being a global citizen. I think everybody here is a global citizen. Even though we've never been outside of Vietnam, we can still be a global citizen, and that's an important aspect about being a global citizen. We need to understand and have the knowledge of what it is required to be able to communicate with everybody around the world. But before we go into speaking about all of that, let's take a look to see who our guest is.
Hey everyone, my name is Nguyễn Phi Vân. I have been working internationally for the past 20 years, so I consider myself a global citizen. I've been working, living in over 100 countries all over the world. When I'm meeting you all, I will be able to share my personal story as well as be able to show you a few things that could be done for us together to be global citizens and to bring Vietnam into the eyes of the global world.
You've just seen the clip of who our guest today is, and I can't wait to welcome her out. She's right there, so let's welcome Chị Vân. Hello, how are you?
Thank you for coming. No worries.
Yeah. Have a seat. Well, welcome. Thanks so much for coming, Chị Phi Vân. I've been able to see you a lot, online on Facebook, and also with your books. And today's topic is on global citizenship, and you first transitioned outside of Vietnam in 1998. So, 1998 until 2019. How different is your view of the world now as compared to your view of the world in 1998?
Wow, okay. I think 20 years ago, I was basically so afraid of what's out there. I don't know what the word has for me. I don't know what the word means. I have no idea what's going on outside of Vietnam. 20 years later, I have to say that there's nothing scary out there. We have the potential and we have the capacity to be global citizens basically now. And we don't have to wait until 20 years later.
Yeah. What I think is really interesting, and I think we're such a lucky generation in the sense that we are consuming the world every day, right? On YouTube, on Facebook. Do you think that, there are certain things about the Vietnamese youths that will make them more afraid compared to, let's say, the youths from, let's say, Singapore, Hong Kong, or America when they go out in the world?
I think there are three things that sort of affect how we see the world and how we basically see ourselves versus the world. First of all, because we're Asian, and genetically we are less developed than the West, and economically we are less developed. So for some reason we feel that we are inferior. The second is the exposure. I mean, if you travel a lot and you go out there and you meet people and you have the chance of your life to actually do different things, interact with different people, you find out that, it's not that scary. We're okay, we're pretty cool. And I think the last is that we haven't got an identity of ourselves. Because to be able to interact, to be able to integrate, to be able to be confident about yourself, first of all, you have to be confident with yourself first. You have to know yourself first. And you have to know the limitless, capacity that you have.
You mentioned this term called the identity of the young generation, and it actually makes me remember, or it reminds me of something that I'm seeing quite a lot here in our society, which is mental health. A lot of the times mental health, is disguised in this idea of I don't know what I want, or, I have no idea who I am, right? And, I'm not happy. Do you think that is endemic to our society at this point in time, and are we the same as other countries? Does it prevent us from doing further things in the world?
I think it's a generational thing, and it's happening among the youth in various countries and not just in Vietnam. However, in Vietnam we have a situation where we actually don't live our life the way we want it to be. You know, we were born, we grew up, our parents told us what to do, which school to go to, how to think, who to marry. I mean, you know, you constantly have been told what to do with your life, and therefore you're living somebody else's life. So identity is not about you not knowing yourself, it's about you submitting to the fact that you have to live and you have to follow what you have been told to be able to live a life that seems to be a good life.
Now, how did you break out of what your parents had for you?
You don't want to know.
Or society had for you? Oh, I want to know now.
I think I have always been considered the black sheep of the family because my family is a very much teacher family. And I'm the only one who says, I'm not going to be a teacher and I'm not going to, you know, do exactly what you told me to do because I don't feel like I'm living. I'm feeling like, you know, I'm just like a robot following orders.
I think you mentioned something that I identify with very well. I do think that it's good to be a little bit rebellious. You know, when we grow up in our family, especially a Vietnamese or an Asian family, a lot of the times our thinking and our personality is shaped by our family. And for those that are able to kind of like get out of that, then they're able to find themselves a little bit better.
I'm not saying that we have to totally rebel and not following any values. We have great values in Asia and in Vietnam. For example, be kind to people around us. Stuff like that are the values that we should keep. But at the same time, to be able to integrate into the new world and to be able to be a global citizen, we need to experiment. I would use that word, not to rebel, but to experiment chunks of lives or experiences that we've never actually got a chance to go through before in our lives.
Right. A lot of people follow your Facebook page. People read your posts. People read your books. How do you think about the way people interact with you on these different social media mediums, especially the youths? Yeah.
I would say there are different types of interaction. I don't know something, therefore I'm going to ask you. And I'm going to ask you now, even though I haven't actually done any research about it. So it's like, okay, we've got social media and it's so easy to contact somebody. So I'm just going to, you know, flip the question over for that person to answer. That's laziness. And I normally answer saying, you know, maybe you should do some research first and come back to me about what you think, and then we can have a conversation. There's another type, which is I read a post about a certain topic, for example, mental health, loneliness. And it's so relevant to me, and it's sort of helping me to overcome myself and open myself more to the world. So thank you very much. And then there are a lot more questions to the topic that I would like to ask. So I love that type of interaction. The third type would be, I don't know what you're talking about, but something is happening and something shocking is happening. So I'm going to just stop and, you know, and maybe think about it. And then, you know, I would like to send you more questions in the future if that's possible. And there are a lot of that sort of interactions where I'm not aware that there's something like this that's going on. And to learn it through your post is shocking. And I need to, you know, get myself through the process first and understand what you're talking about before I can ask questions.
A lot of our youths are now using the internet as the answer for a lot of their questions, right? You know, sometimes they're using Google, sometimes they go on Facebook, they ask people on Facebook. Do you think that's a sustainable way of communicating and a sustainable way of research and finding information?
I have nothing against social media. I love social media, and I use it as a medium for me to keep my communication with the world and the society and the youth. However, I think that we overuse technology to a point where I will have messages sent to me saying, I'm sending this message. I don't know if you're going to read it, but I'm sending it because I have nobody to talk to. I'm asking myself and asking everyone around what's going on. So you have 5,000 friends and maybe 20,000 friends on Facebook, and you have access to all types of medium, and you know, you have people around you, but you have not one person to talk to. Is there something wrong about it? Something is happening that's not so right. Okay, so I think what we face today is that we are losing humanity. we're losing the human touch. We're actually relying on, we're talking to AI, we're talking to robots. But that's what's happening in society at the moment. It's just scary. It's super scary. So I think it's time for us to actually come back and say, look, I'm human. So the media technology is just another way for me to be able to contact people, to be able to interact with people. But there are omni-channel ways of communication.
What does your family say? I'm very curious to know what your family says to some of these things that you're sharing and some of these thoughts that you're thinking about. And especially, what would your daughter say to all of this?
I think at the beginning, at the early teenage years, my daughter, kind of like any other teenager in any country, would shut down and go, okay, rule number 1, don't talk to me. Rule number 2, look at rule number 1. You have to accept it. I love human contact. I make time. Every year I would spend around a month and a half traveling with my daughter around the world so that she can get to see more of the world and interact with different people. I actually talk to my daughter about taboo topics that Vietnamese parents find difficult to talk to, like romance, like love, like sex, especially sex. I mean, come on, the young people want to know about it, and it's very natural. But not a lot of parents in Vietnam would like to talk about it, and they keep it a taboo, and therefore the kids do not know how to talk about it, who to talk to, and they go and talk to a machine. Then obviously parents have to change our approach to be able to then communicate with the young generation.
That's wonderful. I'd love to see what our audience have. Our audience also contains people from the millennial generation, Z generation, as well as some of the Y generation people. So, guys, what questions do you have?
Hello everyone, I'm Lanning. I'm currently studying at Foreign Trade University. Next year, I have a chance of studying abroad in Australia. So I have a question for you. When you moved to Australia, how did you adapt to the lifestyle there, and how did you lead an independent life by yourself? Thank you.
First of all, before I go abroad, I would, based on my experience of not preparing so well and getting so shocked, I would think that you have every opportunity that you could today to research about Australia. I mean, a lot of research would give you the comfort as much as possible, because when I left Vietnam for Australia, I didn't do any research, so I was so shocked. So that's a learning that you could learn. I think secondly, to be independent, I think it's a mindset. You don't have to wait until you go to Australia to be independent. You have to be independent today. I mean, in everything that you do, in the way you think, in the way you set, all of that said, it does take an open mind to go to a new place and just have fun and experience life as it is, experience Australia as it is. And if you have an open mind, then you will be able to interact with a lot of people, especially local people, and learn a lot about how they think, how they work, how they live. I think that experience is more important than anything that you could learn in school.
All right, so let's have a second question.
Hello everyone. Hello, chị Phi Vân. My name is Hồng Thắm. Being a youngster, I really want to be more dynamic. I want to stay confident and express myself. But actually, I am an introvert, and yeah, sometimes I feel like something holds me back, and I just end up staying silent. So, what is the very first step? What should I think in my mind to break that fear?
That's a great question. Fear is my favorite subject. So first of all, you don't have a problem. You're a great person to start with. Secondly, to express yourself to the world, I think the best thing to do is use whatever you're most comfortable with. For example, for me, it's music. I love music, so I connect with people through music. So find something that you are really passionate about and you have a lot of knowledge about, and then connect with people in that same sphere. Then you have a lot to share. And when you have a lot to share, that will open you up.
All right, thank you, audience, for your questions, and thank you, Chị Phi Vân, for your answers. Now, we're going to move on to the IELTS Face-Off Challenge, where you're going to get more questions and that are quite interesting. But before that, we have a new section on the show, and that is called the Hug Cam. So everybody, whenever the camera pans to you, hug the person next to you. All right, I have a couple of questions for you in this IELTS Face-Off Challenge, and these are going to be questions that I've seen personally in my own life, and I'm sure a lot of our audience might have seen in their life, and they are difficult situations.
Okay.
All right.
Now you scare me.
All right, so Chị Phi Vân, how would you react in this situation? You're on a flight, and suddenly you get a foot behind your neck. What would you do in this situation? Would you turn back and tell them to put down their foot? If so, how would you do it? Or would you make yourself uncomfortable and sit there for the whole flight with the foot right next to you?
In actual fact, I've got a lot of foot in my life behind my back on flights around the world. So I don't want to create situations where I have to argue with the person behind me. So normally I would take the air hostess or the stewardess and tell them that, that's very uncomfortable and ask them to help to talk to the other person. That's probably the best way.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you wouldn't tickle the foot with the blanket?
I would love to do that.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, so thank you for the first situation. Now, the second question is your loved one is suffering from mental health. And they're not officially diagnosed, and you see symptoms that might be a little bit worrying. How do you support them? And what would you tell them?
I think the situation of mental health is when people are afraid to talk about it and think that it may be too troublesome for other people to know about. I would always proactively get them out of their normal situation, their normal environment, for example, home or work or whatever. Probably take them somewhere where it's among nature, when it's easier for you to open up and just ask them. Sometimes people are just waiting for somebody to come and ask them what's going on. Just one very simple question will open people up and for them to be able to share. And depending on what they share, you will be able to either be there and talk to them, or in some situations you will need to ask them or help them to meet with a mental health expert or a doctor, because it's not easy to cure mental health. It has to be both. It has to be the support of the family and the loved ones around you, but also medically.
Thank you, thank you. I think that's very helpful to a lot of people out here. And mental health is, I think, is definitely, as you said, a long journey, and it's important for people to recognize it very, very early on. And
on that note, I mean, I would recommend, and I would love everyone to look around you and notice people a bit more. We seem to be, fixing our eyes on the devices too much. We watch every comment on Facebook. We read anything that people post online, but we can't even see, a drop of tears from somebody's eyes sitting next to you. And that is so wrong about this word.
Thank you very, very much for being on the show. And hopefully we'll get you back for other parts of your advice, other parts of your life, because you do many, many, many things and you put on many hats in this society. But thank you so much for sharing with us today on being a global citizen and being an emotionally intelligent global citizen.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Hey guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to continue on to our next section because you're going to be able to see our lovely friends in IELTS on the Go. Coming right up next.
ancient town for me is an example of exceptionally well-preserved Southeast Asia's trading port from 2 centuries ago. And you can see its buildings, its houses, its streets, everything have combined to create this unique heritage site recognized by UNESCO. And I'm here not alone because I have a super cute companion, Như Oanh.
Hi guys, my name is Như Oanh. I'm a fresh graduate from Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam.
Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam. You're
Yeah.
from DAV?
Yes?
We're at the same school!
I know.
That's great! Oh my god, so cool! Right, you're from Hội An, so what do you want to show me today?
You know, Hội An is always my silent weekend getaway in summer. And I'm so glad that IELTS FACE-OFF has given me the chance to take you guys and this beautiful lady around the town and tell you a little bit about this ancient town. And I think one of the salient features of Hội An is that it has got a lot of ancient houses which are so charming.
Like
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, like this, and that.
Oh my god! Should we go for a walk and have a look?
Yeah, let's start it.
Let's go!
Hội An is a pretty small town located on the coastal plain of Quảng Nam province, about 30 kilometers away from the south of Da Nang city. In the past, it is well known as a commercial port where the locals traded with the merchants from Japan, China, and the West during the 16th and 17th century. Nowadays, the ancient town of Hội An is a living museum and is recognized as a UNESCO heritage site in 1999. Over the last few years, it has become one of the most popular tourist destinations in Vietnam, not only for domestic tourists, but also for the foreigners. What is so special about Hội An is that this little port town is in an incredible state of preservation. Fortunately, people say that the city was bad for modernization for over 200 years, leaving the original street plan and the buildings intact, with a sole street bordered with ancient houses, assembly halls, such as pagodas, temples, ancient wells and homes distributed along the narrow streets. Many of these buildings have been preserved in their original forms, make it easier to imagine the trading town's former prosperity and glory.
Hội An, here we are! I'm Khánh Vy and this is Như Oanh.
My name's Như Oanh.
Yes, and she's gonna be my tour guide on the street to Hội An. So, tell me 3 words about Hội An, because you were born here, so you know the most about it.
Personally, I think Hội An is described as unique, charming, and ancient.
Unique, charming, ancient. That's right. So stay tuned on VTV7. IELTS on the go, IELTS FACE-OFF to see more interesting aspects of Hội An, because we love Hội An so much. Thank you. See you later.
Well, when it comes to being a global citizen, we've had a chance to speak to one of the most iconic people in Vietnam with regards to living overseas and being able to integrate into the global community. Now, when we talk about integrating into the global community, what are some of your insecurities? I remember when I was a lot younger, for me it isn't really about integrating into the global community, it is about integrating into Vietnam. Because I think even though we are all striving to be more global, one of the things that we definitely will still need to, at least for me, will still need to have a strong foundation is our Vietnamese identity. I'm still trying to discover that. I wonder what you guys are doing to discover your global or your Vietnamese identity. This is just Wednesday Talk. We still have another Saturday to continue the discussion on this global identity or global living type of discussion. So make sure you tune in with us, make sure you discuss with us. We can't wait to hear what you have next. So let's see you again soon. Ciao, 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 ciao.